My daughter sent me an email on a Thursday evening. The subject line was blank. The body read, "Dad, we've talked about this. You drop by without warning. You undermine our parenting. And honestly, it makes our home feel like it's not ours. We need you to stop coming over unless we specifically ask. We need space to be a real family. Please respect that." I read it sitting at my workbench in the garage. I had sawdust on my fingers. I was building a small wooden rocking horse for my granddaughter, Charlotte, who had just turned 6 and had started asking for a pony every single day. I couldn't give her a pony, but I could give her something I made with my own hands. I read the email twice. Then I set the phone face down on the workbench, picked up the chisel, and went back to work. I am Walter Sinclair. I am 71 years old. For 32 years, I sat on the bench of the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals. I have read verdicts that sent men to prison for life. I have written opinions that changed housing law in 3 states. I have heard every kind of argument a human being can construct, every justification, every rationalization, dressed up in the language of reason. So when my daughter told me I was not welcome in my own grandchild's life unless invited, I understood exactly what was happening. I had presided over enough family court cases to recognize the dynamic. The language was careful. It was designed to sound reasonable. Boundaries, space, real family. The words were chosen to make me feel that any objection I raised would be unreasonable, controlling, toxic. I did not reply to the email that night. I did not call. I went back to shaping the rocker on the horse's base, running the plane along the wood grain, listening to the quiet of the garage. What my daughter did not know, what she had perhaps forgotten in the comfortable fog of a life I had paid for, was that I spent 30 years studying the difference between what people say and what they mean. I was very good at reading the record. The next morning, my son-in-law called at 8:15. I was drinking coffee on the back porch, watching the deer move through the tree line at the edge of my property. I let the phone ring 4 times before I answered. "Walter," he said, using my first name the way he always did, as though we were colleagues. "Hey, look, sorry about Claire's email last night. She's been stressed. You know how she gets. I just wanted to smooth things over." He did not apologize for the email. He smoothed it over. "There is a difference. What can I do for you?" I said. There was a small pause. He hadn't expected that. He had expected me to say, "Oh, don't worry about it, son," and hand him a bridge back to normal. "Well, actually, since you mention it," he said, and I heard papers shuffling. "We've been looking at refinancing the house, but the appraisal came back lower than expected. We're about 30,000 short of where we need to be to get the rate we want." I was thinking, if you could bridge that gap temporarily, just a short-term loan, we'd have it back to you by spring. $30,000. The morning after the email. "Let me think about that," I said. "Of course, yeah, no rush," he said, the relief already spreading through his voice. "And Walter, seriously, don't take the email personally. Claire just needs to feel like the house is hers. You know, you can be a lot, sometimes. I can be a lot." I thanked him for calling and hung up the phone. I sat there for a moment, watching a doe step carefully through the frost on the grass. I thought about what a lot meant. I thought about the down payment I had given them 6 years ago. The full amount, $230,000. Not a loan, a gift. Because my daughter had cried on the phone and told me they had found their dream home and they were so close. I thought about the medical bills I covered when my son-in-law had his knee surgery and their insurance maxed out. I thought about Charlotte's private school tuition, paid quarterly, directly to the school, every year since kindergarten. I went inside. I sat at my desk. I opened my laptop and I wrote one email. It was to my old colleague and closest friend, a woman named Margaret Holt, who had been a probate and estate attorney for 40 years, and who had helped me structure my affairs after my wife passed 8 years ago. The email said, "Margaret, are you free today? I need to make some changes." She replied in 11 minutes. "I'll clear my afternoon. Come at 1. Margaret's office was on the 3rd floor of a building downtown that smelled like old carpet and good coffee. She had represented more old money in this city than any attorney alive, and she had a way of listening that reminded me of myself on the bench. She let people finish. She did not rush to fill silence. I put my phone on her desk and showed her the email from my daughter. She read it without expression. Then I told her about the call with my son-in-law. She took off her reading glasses and set them on the desk. "How long has this been building?" she asked. "Since the beginning," I said. "I just chose not to see it." She nodded. She had heard that before. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want to do what I should have done 5 years ago," I said. "I want to stop." We spent 3 hours going through the documents. Margaret had the records of every transfer, every gift, every co-signature. The total, when she laid it out on a single spreadsheet and turned the screen toward me, was more than I had expected, even knowing what I knew. $412,000 over 6 years, not including the invisible costs. The country club membership I maintained so my son-in-law could entertain clients. Charlotte's school. The vacation to Portugal the previous summer that my daughter had mentioned casually at Christmas and that I had quietly funded through a transfer to their joint account. I looked at the number for a long time. "The house?" I said. "Who holds the mortgage?" "You co-signed," Margaret said. "The bank holds the note, but your credit profile is attached. You have right of contribution. Can we remove that?" She looked at me carefully. "We can notify the bank that you are withdrawing the co-signature. They will likely call the note. Derek and Claire would need to refinance on their own within 60 days. "Do it," I said. "Walter." "Do it, Margaret." She picked up her pen. "And Charlotte's school?" I closed my eyes for a moment. Charlotte's face appeared. 6 years old, missing a tooth on the bottom left, laughing at something on the porch last Thanksgiving when she thought I was asleep in my chair. She was the innocent one. She had nothing to do with any of this. "Open a trust," I said. "Put Charlotte's full education funding in it, through college. Lock it so that only the school can receive disbursements directly. Not Claire, not Derek, the institution only." Margaret wrote without comment. "The club membership," I continued. "Cancel it at the end of the billing cycle. The supplemental account I set up for household emergencies? Close it." She looked up. "The co-signature withdrawal is going to trigger a call to the bank. They'll have 60 days, but they won't be able to refinance. Their credit-to-income ratio without your backing is not sufficient for any conventional lender. They will most likely have to sell." "I know," I said. "You understand that your daughter is going to see this as an attack." "My daughter sent me an email telling me I was not welcome in her home," I said. "And her husband called the next morning to ask for $30,000. That is not a daughter who sees me as a father. That is a daughter who sees me as a resource. I love her. I will always love her. But I am 71 years old, and I am done funding the illusion." Margaret turned back to her screen. She typed for a long time. The printer hummed and produced pages. I signed them. My hand was steady. When I walked out into the afternoon sun, I felt something I had not felt in years. I felt like myself. I did not hear anything for 9 days. That silence was its own kind of answer. My daughter did not call to apologize for the email. She did not invite me over. She did not send a photo of Charlotte. There was simply nothing, which told me everything I needed to know about what the relationship had actually been. I woke up early. I walked. I cooked real meals at the kitchen table instead of eating standing over the sink because I was always rushing to respond to someone's emergency. I finished The Rocking Horse. It was beautiful, honest work, the kind of thing that holds its weight. On the 10th day, the bank sent a certified letter to the house on Birchwood Lane. I knew the moment it arrived because my daughter called 3 times in 20 minutes while I was out walking. I came home, poured a glass of water, and sat in my armchair. When she called the 4th time, I answered, "Dad." Her voice was tight, controlled, the way it got when she was trying not to cry and trying not to show that she was trying not to cry. "The bank sent a letter. It says you withdrew as co-signer. It says we have to refinance within 60 days or they call the note." A pause. "What is going on?" "You asked for space," I said. "I'm giving it to you." The silence on the other end was a different kind of silence than the 9 days before. This one had weight to it. "That is not Dad. That is completely different and you know it. We asked for privacy. We didn't ask you to blow up our mortgage." "I didn't blow up your mortgage," I said. "I removed my name from a financial obligation attached to a household where I am not welcome." You are welcome. Your husband called me the morning after your email, I said, to ask for $30,000. She went quiet. He did, I said. So let me make sure I understand the arrangement. I stay away from the house. I stay out of your lives. I do not come by unannounced. I do not undermine your parenting. I give you the space to be a real family. And in exchange, I continue to co-sign your mortgage, fund Charlotte's school, cover the emergencies, and transfer money when your husband needs to impress his clients at a club I pay for. I let that sit. Is that what real family means to you? I heard her breathing. I didn't know Derek called you, she said, quietly. I know you didn't, I said, but he did. And that tells me a great deal about the situation over there. She started to cry. I let her cry. I did not rush to comfort her. There is a version of comfort that just delays the reckoning, and I had spent 6 years offering that version and watching it change nothing. What are we supposed to do? She said, finally. We can't refinance on our own. You know that. We'll have to sell. Then you'll have to sell, I said, or you'll have to figure out another way. Those are the options grown adults have. Dad, I love you, Claire, I said. I love Charlotte more than anything in this world. But I am not the answer to every problem, and I should have made that clear a long time ago. Get some rest. We'll talk more when things are calmer. I hung up. My hands were perfectly still. What happened in the weeks that followed I learned partly in real time and partly afterward, from Margaret, from a neighbor of theirs I had known for years, and eventually from Claire herself. My son-in-law's response to the bank letter was not to sit down with my daughter and make a plan. His response was to call a lawyer and threaten to sue me for interference with a financial arrangement. His lawyer, a man who apparently specialized in aggressive letters that went nowhere, sent a 3-page document to Margaret, demanding that I reinstate the co-signature under some theory of implied contractual obligation. Margaret read it, set it aside, and sent back a single paragraph explaining that no such obligation existed, and that any further correspondence should reference the documents signed by Derek himself, confirming the gift nature of all prior transfers. We did not hear back. What I also did not know until later was that my son-in-law had been living well beyond even what I was supplementing. He had a credit card, a personal one my daughter did not know about, with a balance of just under $40,000, restaurants, hotels, expenses that required a certain kind of explanation to a spouse. When the pressure of the bank letter hit, when the $30,000 loan request to me had failed, he began to unravel in ways that had nothing to do with me. My daughter found out about the credit card on a Wednesday, 6 weeks after the bank letter. She told me about it months later, sitting in my kitchen, and I will not repeat the details here because they are hers to carry, not mine to broadcast. What I will say is that the life she had been protecting, the one she had asked me to stay away from so they could be a real family, turned out to have been built on sand I had not even supplied. They listed the house in October. The real estate agent called me, not them, because the house had my name attached to the original purchase records, and she had found me through the co-signer documentation. She was professional, apologetic. I told her I had no objection to the sale and that she should proceed with the current occupant's cooperation, or without it. She thanked me and moved on. My daughter called me the night they accepted an offer. We got less than we paid, she said. After fees and the early payoff penalty, we're basically walking away with nothing. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I meant it. We're moving into an apartment, she said. Derek found one near his office. 2 bedrooms. Charlotte's going to have to share space with the laundry room for a while. Her voice broke on the last part. Not for herself. For Charlotte. How is Charlotte? I asked. She's scared, my daughter said. She doesn't understand why we're leaving the house. She keeps asking if she did something wrong. I closed my eyes. She didn't do anything wrong, I said. Make sure she knows that. Dad. Her voice was different now. The controlled, managed tone she had been using since the email was gone. What was left was the voice I remembered from when she was young, before the right suburb and the right address and the right social circle became the architecture of her identity. I owe you an apology. I waited. The email was wrong, she said. It was Derek's idea, the wording, but I sent it, and that's on me. You were never the problem. You were never too much. I think I knew that, and I told myself a different story because it was easier than looking at what was actually wrong. She exhaled. I'm sorry. I know, I said. I appreciate you saying it. I don't expect anything, she said quickly. I'm not calling to ask for anything. I just needed you to know. There was a long pause. I looked across the room at the rocking horse, still sitting in the corner of the garage doorway where I had left it weeks ago, waiting. Where are you having Charlotte's birthday? I asked. She laughed, a wet, surprised laugh. The apartment parking lot if we're lucky. Bring her here, I said. I have something for her. There was silence again, but this time it was a different kind, soft around the edges. Okay, she said. Okay, Dad. My son-in-law and I did not reconcile easily or quickly, and I am not going to pretend otherwise. He came with my daughter to that first birthday visit, polite, in the stiff way of a man who knows he has been outmaneuvered and hasn't yet decided what posture to take instead. He shook my hand at the door. He did not make eye contact for most of the afternoon. I did not press him. I had spent 30 years on a bench watching people work through the stages of accountability at their own pace. I was not in a hurry. Charlotte saw the rocking horse and screamed with joy. A real scream, the kind that fills a house. She climbed on it immediately and rocked so hard I thought she might tip it, but it held. I had built it to hold. I watched her rock back and forth in my kitchen while my daughter sat across from me with coffee in her hands, and for a moment, none of the rest of it existed. Not the email, not the mortgage, not the credit card, not the lawyers, just that sound. A 6-year-old girl, delighted by a simple thing her grandfather made with his own hands. After Charlotte fell asleep on the couch that afternoon, my daughter and I sat on the back porch. The deer were out again along the tree line. She asked me why I hadn't just talked to her before pulling everything at once. I tried talking for 6 years, I said. Every time I raised a concern, it was reframed as me being controlling, or overbearing, or not respecting your independence. So I stopped raising concerns and kept writing checks. That wasn't better. It was worse. It let the problem grow. She nodded slowly. Derek never saw you as a person, she said. He saw you as infrastructure. She looked at her coffee cup. I let that happen. I think I was afraid that if I pushed back on how he talked about you, I'd have to look at everything else too. You were protecting something, I said. I understand that. Was I? She was quiet for a moment. I don't know what I was protecting. The version of my life I wanted people to think I had, maybe. The sun was going down through the trees. I thought about a line from a decision I had written 20 years ago, a case involving a family trust and a son who had tried to claim assets he had never earned. I had written, "Generosity given without accountability teaches the recipient that value arrives without effort and that love can be quantified in dollars. It serves neither party." I had meant it as a legal principle. I had not understood then that I was also writing instructions for my own life that I would spend 2 decades ignoring. I did not share that with my daughter. Some things you carry quietly. My son-in-law found a new position 2 months later, a genuine one, with a smaller firm that paid less but required him to actually generate results. He told me about it over the phone in a voice that sounded unfamiliar, uncertain, like a man wearing clothes he hadn't broken in yet. He said the work was harder than he expected. He said he was tired by 6 o'clock most nights. He said Charlotte had started drawing pictures of their new apartment and calling it home. I told him that was a good sign. I owe you more than an apology, he said. You don't owe me anything, I said. Just do the work. He said he would. I believed him somewhat. People become who the situation demands, and for the first time in 6 years the situation was demanding that he stand on his own. I would wait and see. Charlotte's trust continued its deposits, quietly, invisibly, compounding in the background of her childhood the way good things do. She did not know it existed. She did not need to. She would find out when she was 18 and ready to build something for herself. And when she did, she would know that someone who loved her had thought about her future before she was old enough to think about it herself. I finished another project in the garage that winter. A bookshelf, tall and sturdy, with the kind of joinery that does not need hardware because the wood itself holds the form. I built it for no one in particular. I built it because the making of something solid and lasting is its own reward at 71. When the things you built in your career are behind you, and the things that come next are yours alone to choose. I put it in the corner of the study and filled it with the books I had been meaning to reread for years. Then I made coffee and sat in the good chair by the window and opened the first one. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that does not feel empty. The kind that comes after you have finally stopped filling silence with money. Before I end, I want to say one thing to anyone listening who sees themselves in this story on either side of it. If you are a parent who has been writing checks instead of having hard conversations, I am not here to judge you. I did the same thing for years, and I did it because I loved my daughter, and because it was easier than the alternative, and because I told myself that providing was the same as parenting. It is not. Providing without limits does not teach your children that you love them. It teaches them that love is a transaction, and that you are the bank. And if you are a grown child who has been taking without thinking, I am not here to shame you either. It is easy to take what is freely given. It takes more character than most of us have at 30 to look at what we are receiving and ask whether we have earned it, whether it is good for us, whether we are becoming smaller by accepting it. The hardest thing I ever did was not pulling the co-signature. The hardest thing was sitting on my porch while my daughter cried on the phone and not writing the check that would have stopped her tears immediately and changed nothing permanently. Sometimes love is a wall. Sometimes it says no, so that the person you love is forced to find out what they are made of. I know what my daughter is made of now. I am proud of what I see. I am Walter Sinclair. I spent 32 years on the federal bench deciding what was fair under the law. It took me considerably longer to understand what was fair under the roof of my own family. But I got there. If any of this spoke to you today, tell me where you're listening from. And if you have ever had to practice tough love, or if you were the one who had to learn the hard way, leave it in the comments. Every story matters. I'll be here.